The threat is real. I was on one of the Earths that was swallowed by this wave.
Well, who we have here?
I come from a parallel Earth. We look down on supervillains.
Welcome our newly formed team of heroes.
The Justice League.
Drain the power from them. Thank you, Justice League.
Something's about to happen. Something major.
I am Harbinger.
This is the thing.
Yeah, I figured.
You each possess the skills, strength, and speed to save your universe.
Great Scott.
What's happening?
The universe. It's all vanishing.
Look!
This is it. I won't let you go.
Is it as bad as it looks?
Yes.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome everybody back to DC in the morning. Welcome to the new setup. As you can see, I've got my general over here. Sorry, I've been away. If you guys didn't see my Twitter post or anything like that, my pet passed away. So I was going through the stages of grief, but now I'm back and doing the DC in the afternoon. And hey, what's up? Oh, good to see you, South Florida Drifter. I know. This is actually funny because it's part of what I'm going to talk about today. But this is my Zod Multiverses version of General Zod. So he is the version that runs the Suicide Squad. So I also got that comic as well. Technically a hero, but welcome everybody today on DC in the afternoon. I appreciate having everybody here. I know I've been gone for a while. I will be doing a tier list this week with the fellas and a bunch of movie reviews, a spoiler discussion on Alien Romulus. All of that will be coming up this week. I am so sorry that I have not been on here. I just had some things to deal with. So now I'm back, and thanks to Bitchy, I have a cool new fun setup. So there we go. This is all of our stuff here. So hey KH, thank you for the well wishes. So today I'm going to be talking to you guys about the universe that DC actually did well, that no one really knows about. And that is hey, Kreml, good to see you here. So I'm going to talk about the universe that DC did do well, which was the animated movie universe, or the DCAMU, which is a connected universe, much like Marvel, but they did it in animated form. And by that, I mean animated movies that connected together. There's, I believe right now, 50 movies, and it's one of the reasons DC actually DC has been beating Marvel for years, even to this day in animation. They always have. So I'm going to kind of talk about each and every one of the movies, how they connect, and tell you about the brilliance, because the animated universe with the trailer I just showed earlier recently came to an end. James Gunn is rebooting everything, so they had what was called the Tomorrowverse, and that arc just ended with the 3-part movie Crisis on Infinite Earths, which wraps up this really, really long journey that I have been following for the past couple of years now. So I'm going to talk about that, seeing as too I talked about the DC movie universe that imploded. We talked about, and I showed you guys all the video, which is a lot to do with WB. The one thing the WB never messed up, and that was the animated universe. They thankfully left that alone, and it had a wonderful run. So I'm going to kind of go in order to kind of just explain the different movies, timelines, things like that, and all that good stuff. So hold on, let me see if I can pull it. Oh, here we go. Okay, so and thank you everybody for joining me. Really appreciate it. Also too, I don't know if it's tonight or tomorrow. I will be doing a full spoiler breakdown of. I'll probably do it tomorrow. A full spoiler breakdown of Alien Romulus. I'm gonna break that down, talk about it. It's probably in my top 10 horror. I'm using that vaguely. It is definitely more horror this time around than, but that's probably gonna be on my top 10 list. So. South Florida Drifter says, Zod, I will literally Venmo you 5 to talk about the Australian breakdancer on a live stream. I have to actually look that up. I have been out of the loop for a lot of things. An Australian breakdancer does sound hilarious, though. Just to let you guys know, too, I will be doing a late night talks as well again. So I'm probably gonna be doing it this Wednesday. It's just been really hard on Fridays to get the band together, but I'll probably just do a late night talks uh, this Friday. See where I'm at as far as that all goes. But uh, let me get to the topic of the day, which is I'm going to talk about the DCAMU, how it was formed, when it was formed, all of that good stuff, and kind of the history of that, and then I'll go through all of the various movies and things like that. So, OMG, you have to see it and read about it. Crazy. The Olympics? All right. If you could do me a favor, just send me an article of it, and maybe I'll bring it up. I'm probably gonna cover that this Friday, on late night talks, because I know a lot of crazy stuff happened in the Olympics. That's the way it always goes. So, okay, so I am going to tell you about the DCAMU. So, what is the DCAMU? The DCAMU is the DC Animated Universe. It started in 2023, and it actually recently just ended this year. So, it was a shared universe of animated films that were different standalone movies, but they could be watched. There's some that could be watched on their own, but there is a connective storyline. So picture what the MCU did, but in animated form with the DC. And it was everything I hoped they would do in the movies, what they probably should have done in the movies, but they never did. And it was all of these animated films that first connected into what was called the Apokolips arc or the Apokolips War, and then it goes from Tomorrowverse into the Crisis on Infinite Earths, which they adapted so James Gunn could reset the universe and make his own new continuity. So it just ended it with part 3 of Crisis on Infinite Earths. It's probably one of my favorite, if not probably my favorite animated universes of all time. So, um, basically, the first in the franchise, and this is the New 52 storyline, which is basically the newer storyline. Some of New 52 I don't like. Those were the recent comics, so the recent Superman, Batman, stuff like that. Um, I'm 50-50 on the animation style, but the first was called Justice League Flashpoint Paradox, a 5-film story arc. So, how they did this, just so I could explain, was first of all, they had one writer who was Jeff Johns, and they wrote several of the films in arcs, but then it had one overall story. Sound familiar? So basically, the animated team was doing what the movie team could not do. They were writing these short form stories to connect them. Hey, what's up? How are you? He said, Big Ditto John B. Hey, at General Zod's Phantom Zone, totally agree. The DCAMU is what the DCU and the DCEU could have been if WB took their time and not rushed. Yeah, exactly. That's why, like I said, I go over all things you see, but thank you. Yes, that is very true. and that's why I'm explaining it today. So we're gonna break it all down, and I'm gonna talk about how, like you said, to me, the animated universe laid out what the live action should have been, and I did in my last episode talk about the rise and fall of the live action universe. So now we're covering the animated universe because if you guys don't know, that just recently ended, and now James Gunn's universe is going to start, and I'm super excited because he seems to be doing the same thing that they should have done years ago. You know, he's connecting everything but taking its time, so I appreciate that. Let's start off with the first arc. So the first arc was a 5 film arc, which was it started with the Justice League Flashpoint Paradox, and it was adapting the Dark Side War. And in between there, you also had the death of Superman, and the reign of Superman as well. But these all came to a close with the Apokolips War. And the first story arcs had also other films as well in between, ended with Justice League Dark Apokolips War, which is probably one of my favorite animated movies. And then that was the end of that story arc. And then you had Constantine, the House of Mystery, which was kind of an epilogue to that sequence. And then the second story arc, which just recently wrapped up, was called the Tomorrowverse. And the Tomorrowverse was a 10-film arc, which ended with the Crisis on Infinite Earths, and it also folded in the other animated series. So, any fans of Batman the Animated Series, Batman Beyond, Static Shock, things like that, actually, the 3-part Crisis movie does have some of the characters from those in there because this is a literal reset of the entire universe. But the story is super, super good. If you guys don't know John Constantine, besides General Zod, General Zod is my favorite villain. John Constantine's probably my favorite hero, roughly. He's more of an anti-hero, kind of a dick, but he's my favorite out of everybody. So that's my favorite DC hero, in case people don't know. But yeah, and he plays a huge role in this whole entire universe. Probably the best use I've seen of John Constantine. Also, really shows his power within the DC. Um, and he said, at General Zod's Phantom Zone, I wish Flash movie followed the Flashpoint story rather than make it. Yeah, I agree. I don't like the Flash movies very much at all. I wish they would have just did Flashpoint for the Flash movie. But so the movies were the movies ended with the Tomorrowverse, and then they ended it all up with the Crisis on Infinite Earth. It was a 3-part story event, and it basically cuts off the rest of the universe. So the first movies that were released were Justice League, The Flashpoint Paradox, Justice League War, Son of Batman, Justice League Throne of Atlantis, Batman and Robin, Batman Bad Blood, Justice League versus the Teen Titans, Justice League Dark, Teen Titans, The Judas Contract, Suicide Squad, Hell to Pay, The Death of Superman, Constantine, City of Demons, Reign of Superman, Batman Hush, Wonder Woman Bloodlines, and then uh, Justice League Dark's second movie, Apokolips War, which finished the Apokolips War arc on May 5th, 2020. From that point was the second story arc, which was the Tomorrowverse, which was Superman, Man of Tomorrow, Justice League Society, World War II, Batman, The Long Halloween, Part 1 and Part 2, which by far are probably my favorites in the Tomorrowverse storyline. Green Lantern, Beware of My Power, Legions of Superheroes, Justice League War World, Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 1, Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 2, and finally just finished up with Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 3. So, There's a bunch of short films in there and a couple of web series, some comic tie-ins and things like that. But yeah, so that's basically the gist of those arcs and their resets. So what makes this universe so special? Hey Kristen, how are you doing? Good to see you. So this is to me a big example of showing a universe that cares. So first thing, the that I want to talk about is the first arc, which is the Apokolips War arc, and probably my favorite. So this set of movies had several different writers, a lot of different voice actors. You had Jensen Ackles in here, of course, Mark Hamill, uh, and you know all of the usual people who voice characters. I mean, there's so many voice actors in here. Let me see if I can find them all. But I mean, the list is absolutely crazy. How many different voice actors that you had voice acting the lead people, and let me see. I don't think because they've had so many. Oh yeah, here we go. So just to give you guys a list of just a few people that they had Jack Quaid, Brian Bloom, David McCollum, Vanessa Williams. Let me see. Peyton R. List, Kevin Conroy, of course. Kevin Conroy was in actually several of these. Jensen Ackles also did Batman in one as well. You had, let me see, there's a couple of David Desmalchian, uh, uh, let's see, Titus Weaver, who was actually did a live action Lex Luthor in Titans. You have Michael B. Jordan, Tony Todd, Ron Perlman, uh, Nathan Fillion. Trying to think of the really big highlights here. Because and you guys can look this up because there's oh yeah, Nolan North, Troy Baker, who also do a lot of video games as well. Zachary Quinto. Um, let's see. Pretty much that's the main ones, and some of the other people you'll recognize if you play the thing. But this is what I mean. Like, this is what I think people don't understand. The animated universe had so many, it almost felt like the animated universe was the movie universe we'd never got. And that's why I do say go out and check. I know a lot of people look at it as cartoons, but a lot of these were PG-13 to R. Actually, Justice League Dark Apokolips War, which I showed to Bitchy, that's actually a hard R. Like, Wonder Woman gets her arms ripped off. It's like this shit gets crazy, and there's a couple of movies in there that are actually R rated. They range from like PG-13 to R. Like, I believe Justice League Dark, the first one, is kind of a R. John Constantine City of Demons is very much an R rated one, and then the Batman Superman crossovers are PG-13, but like very very close. It's definitely not traditional as far as I would think of them more as anime than hey, what's up, Carmen? Uh, Edgehill Zot the one thing I did like is how they connected the DCAMU with the Tomorrowverse. Yeah, they used Flash and John Constantine, which was my favorite part about that. I really liked the Death of Superman 2018. It was so much better. Yes, I do agree. Death of Superman and the Reign of Superman were pretty good. I liked them both, to tell you the truth. So, those were all of the actors and actresses that were in the different Justice League. And also, too, I do want to read some figures. So, on top of just stellar reviews from actually critics gave surprisingly good reviews, and mostly critics and audience were hand in hand. So I'm going to give a rough estimate of the different cells. Now, because this isn't movies per se, there's a different metric, and some of these even went to streaming, which makes the metrics a little bit harder for me to keep track of. But streaming numbers are so finicky. I'm just going to use the Blu-ray and DVD sales just to give you guys an idea of like this, like people really enjoyed these films. And I know I've got a good majority of these um, movies. Most of them I sadly brought digital because they're much easier to find than in stores. But I'm just gonna go over the different sales goals and as well as the scores. So for Justice League, the Flashpoint Paradox released July 30th, 2013. The first 3 weeks, it sold 2,961,457, grossing a total of 5,200 or what was it? Nope, sorry, my bad. 5,200 or wait, hold on. Okay, wait, that's gross in the first weeks. Hold on. Oh, okay, sorry. That's the total. Dude, they do this so weird. Okay, so the total average that it made in its lifespan was 5 million. I'm just going to do the totals because that's confusing. They do first 3 week sales and then the totals. Anyways, it's a whole big thing. Hate numbers. Anyways, the total that the first movie in the series grossed was 5,263,783 lit. Only 5 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, so didn't really catch up that much, but at 100%. Justice League War did 5,806,863 in total sales, and that was at a 50% from 6 reviews. Now, these keep on going up as the universe catches more, and I think Justice League Dark, well, actually near the death of Superman, and Justice League Dark is where there's a lot more reviews. Also, there's more IGN reviews as well. But anyways, so let's see. The Son of the Batman, which was a huge one, did 7,000,000 and then 35,303, and had 11 reviews at 64%. And then Justice League Dark did 3,321,532. The Death of Superman was 6,551,111. Let me see. So yeah, some of these do fall off. Some of these I don't have numbers for, but you guys get the idea. So in sales in total, the average sales wasn't that bad. Oh, hold on a second. Hey, Carbon, how are you? It said at General Zadzana, so I really okay. I already read that one. Sorry, I'm trying to catch up. And hey, okay, I don't mess into it. All right, so yeah, so the sales actually didn't did do that well. Now, here's the thing with the Tomorrowverse, and thank you. I was actually going to make that point. The Tomorrowverse actually was rushed because James Gunn was taking over and he wanted to reset the whole entire universe, and he didn't really care about finishing the rest off. He basically said finish the storyline they were doing, which ended with Flashpoint, so he cut it short. And look, I don't really blame that because he actually let them finish everything that was in production, which he could have just said, no, I want to kill everything now. But he let them finish the story arc out and then end it because he saw it also too as a way to reset everything because he's going to also start tying in the animated stuff with the live action stuff and weaving the story together, which I think is a good idea. So that's why the Tomorrowverse is more rushed. It has 10 movies as opposed to the initial 50 movie run. So let's talk about the different things. And I want to read this from radiotimes.com. So here we go. And I'm going to give you guys, if you're interested, I don't know how many people watch animated stuff. I'm a huge nerd. So if you're interested, this is just some information. But I would suggest most of the movies you could find on HBO Max or through Amazon Prime, which I have an HBO Max subscription, not sponsored. Although Max, with as much as I promote you on this channel, you really should sponsor me. Just an FYI, because geez, being that they own DC, I should just be their spokesman because I talk about them probably more than anybody else. But anyways, I'm going to go over the order of how these go. And then kind of break them down individually and what the movie was about. So this is by Radio Times, and they talk about how DC fans have plenty to get excited over the coming months with the Superman reboot and storylines, and they're currently adapting the Tomorrowverse. The animated universe has recently revisited the origins of Clark Kent, Jon Stewart, and offered a cinematic retelling of Batman The Long Halloween, but the biggest is yet to come. Warner Bros. Is currently embarking on a 3-part adaptation of Crisis on Infinite Earths, which is a multiverse crossover. This, if you guys don't know, the Crisis on Infinite Earths was the last thing that Kevin Conroy ever did. Everybody thought it was Justice League Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League, which was a terrible game. I talked about it on my channel. But no, actually, he had worked on a couple of different things. It's all getting released now. So Kevin Conroy's Batman and Mark Hamill's Joker actually does make an appearance in the 3-part final event, because it's every animated universe essentially being wiped out. So definitely check that out. But I'm going to go over the chronological order that you can watch the movies in if you're interested in. And like I said, most of these you can find on Amazon or HBO Max is your best bet, because Warner Bros. Owns them. But there's weird licensing things with the movies. It's a whole big thing. But anyways, so the first one, Justice League Flashpoint. And I like the animation here. Although it varies from time to time, and basically the premise is the break in to this museum, and it has Thrawn as Zoom and things like that. But the overall point of this movie is this is the kickoff to what would be an overarching storyline, and actually this is what the live action movies should have did. This started what's called the Flashpoint Paradox, which is messing with time, basically. The next one is 2014's Justice League War. And this is where they introduce, I believe, Batman and Cyborg into this. And also as Marvel did, they introduced Darkseid in several of these movies, but he doesn't become a major threat until later on. So as you watch these movies, there'll be several times where the movie has nothing to do with, and Darkseid is not involved, but he makes like a brief cameo. And this is what I mean, where when I talked about the fall of the DCU, I was talking about how they had this set up in animated form. Like, there was one writer, but it's like several directors, different actors, different voice actors, things like that. But there was one person who steered this whole entire storyline. Like, these movies just wrapped up this year. So it's crazy how they could do that on the animated side, but they couldn't do it on the film side, and vice versa for Marvel. Marvel's animation is terrible. They've got some of the most atrocious animation. It just recently got better. So DC and Marvel have always had the inverse problem, where Marvel has always had really shitty animation. The DC has had great animation, but DC hasn't been able to have consistent film franchise, and Marvel has been able to do a consistent film franchise. I just found that hilarious how those two things are very, very different. Um, I hated how they handled the Crime City. Look, I'm glad they let them finish, but the Crisis on Infinite should have been 4 movies instead of 3. Yeah, I didn't get through all 3 of the movies. I'm only on part 2. Titan, yeah, I do like that too. I like that they gave the story arc a bit of time to breathe. So uh this movie was basically setting up Cyborg, Batman, and Flash. This also introduces who's going to be our main big bad, which is Apokolips. Uh, the next one is Son of Batman. I hate Damian Wayne. Unfortunately, they're going to adapt him into live action. He is, to me, the worst Robin of all time. I don't know why they keep on trying to make him a thing. They've been doing this shit since the animated series, but now we're gonna get a live action Damian Wayne, yay! But if you guys don't know, Damian Wayne was basically the son of Bruce Wayne and Talia al Ghul. Um, Only he was born in with the League of Assassins, and then later goes to live with his father, Batman. So, it's a good premise. I just never liked how they ever did Damian Wayne in any of the iterations. He's kind of tolerable here, but the plot here is basically the way they fold him into the bigger story actually is pretty decent. But basically, this is a setup for him to obviously be there later. And this is what I mean, where they set up different pieces. Like, this movie has nothing to do with Apokolips. However, Damian Wayne will be coming back later in the story. And that's what I mean. Like, they set all this up in animated form. It baffles my mind to this day how they could not do the same thing in live action movies. Like, you can see right there. This is literally everything the MCU has done. They literally are using the same format as the MCU, but they never did it for the movies. They did it in animated movies. It just it's the one thing that frustrates me about being a DC fan. I love how much they showed Dark Side, like I tightened up, and it said at General Zod's Phantom Zone. It's a shame that we'll never get to see Snyder's Dark Side in action. Who knows? They might introduce Dark Side though. Um, I am super excited about James Gunn's universe, so we'll see. So Justice League Throne of Atlantis. This is the introduction of Aquaman, and this is just Aquaman shenanigans. Uh, there is a cameo or a little thing about Darkseid in this as well. Um, but like I said, vague connections. Just think like Iron Man, Captain America, that kind of a thing, where you start to see the through line of Thanos. Then we have Batman versus Robin. Um, this was okay. This was the continuation of the Damian Wayne, Bruce Wayne kind of story. Actually, I like this because the Court of Owls are introduced, which is basically a super secret society of badass people who control all aspects of Gotham. They're kind of like supposed to be a play on the Illuminati, basically. And Damian and Batman have to team up to stop them. They try to use Damian against Batman, but that doesn't work. Another good one, Batman Bad Blood. This was where we introduced the version of Batwoman we should have got on the CW. Um, this is Cassandra, the actual Cassandra Cain. And basically, this is just setting her up to be part of the group. It's Batwoman's little adventure. This is how they should have done this. And this is what's sad about this animated universe, too. Half of the characters they introduce in animated form were 20 times better than what CW or the movies did ever. And this is why I'm bringing up animation. I know animation is a mixed bag. Some people enjoy it. Some people think it's cartoons. I'd honestly give a good recommendation if you're bored. A lot of these movies are roughly an hour or so. They're not that long. Um, some of them are close to the 2 hours, like Justice League Apokolips War. But the character work and world building is tremendous. Oh yeah, Jensen Ackles did voice Batman in the Tomorrowverse. I actually think he did a great job. So yeah, and as you can see, these are all brought up, and this is what I wanted to talk about. That's really important, and what I think they need to do in the new DC. Because if you guys are here, you're major DC fans. Anyways, this is what I'm saying and why I'm bringing up the animated movie universe, because I know it's kind of weird, but like I said, I'm going to be covering all corners of DC leading up to starting to critique and talk about James Gunn's DC, which, by the way, I'm super excited for, if you guys didn't know. Huge fan of James Gunn, fan of his movies in general, but this is, you see a pattern here that I'm going to point out as we go. Every movie leads into itself, right? And they were doing this in animation. How can you not translate that to film? How? What? It just how? WB? Oh, that's right, because you're a bunch of greedy fucking corporate douchebags who don't want to see money, right? The reason why animation was allowed to do this and not live action is because the overlords didn't see animation as profitable. And as I read the numbers, the sad part is the animation was probably more profitable than half of the movies that came out towards the back end of this year. That is nuts to me. That is absolutely bananas. But I'm sorry, I go into the tangent. That's what I do here sometimes. So, anyways, let me get back to it. But I had to highlight because, look, now, notice how everything in this leads into each other, right? We get Cassandra Cain, they seem innocuous. Now, there's Damian Wayne, right? You get Teen Titans versus the Justice League. The Teen Titans were led by Damian Wayne. And then that's where you introduce Raven and Blue Beetle and Beast Boy. Yeah, and I think that's it. Also, too, they introduced Trigon, which I want to highlight was voiced by John Berthal, who, if you don't know, played the Netflix Punisher. So, little fun side note there. But yeah, so you're now introducing a new bad guy. Trigon does come in back later, but you introduce the overarching villain of uh, the Teen Titans because Trigon is Raven's father. It's a whole big thing. So you see what I'm saying? Every story interlocks and interconnects. They're introducing these teams by giving them standalone movies as to not overload people with all of this information. But if you watch these movies together, which I did, and I might do a review and breakdown of all of these films, but in the most basic sense, uh, they build these teams and bring them together, and the really important people get their own films, but they introduce the characters as a team together. They don't go into a whole big thing of giving everybody a movie, just the important key characters, right? Batman's son, the Bat family, because they're going to get their own movie. You'll see in a second. The different Robins, right? And then they bring in the Teen Titans. Teen Titans do come in later. Everybody has a part to play in the Apokolips War. And that's what I mean when I talk about building out a world. And like I said, I'm going to get to this a lot. This fascinates me in the sense that In animation, they could do this, but they could absolutely not do this in movies. How cool would have been a Teen Titans movie? How cool would have been a Batwoman movie? Or you know what I mean? Or a Bat Family movie. And this is why I'm excited about James Gunn, because this is exactly how he's building it out now. He's starting with the popular characters. He wants to bring in the Bat Family. He wants to bring in the Robins, right? This is stuff they could have did like 20 years ago. We are in 2024, right? This universe started in 2008, right? And they just ended in 2024. The animated end was able to function because they had no interference. Why? Because the suits didn't give a shit about animation. And I wanted to bring up animation today. If you guys don't know, I'm a huge anime fan. People have for years scoffed at animation. So why I'm bringing this up is to show the failure of the movies contrasted with what I believe is the success of the animated universe. And why that's successful? Because they did exactly what Marvel did to the T, without trying to be Marvel, without trying to copy them. And I highlighted that a lot. Go check out my fall of the DCEU. I highlighted this a lot. And this is a huge problem that a lot had, where I said, I don't know where Snyder fucking up and WB fucking up is. Both ends screwed over a lot of things that happened. Snyder less so. I just didn't like his ideas. But definitely WB. Because once again, animation has always been seen, even by Disney today, right? Look at what Disney as a company is doing today. Animation has always been seen as this lesser thing. And I really want to give a shout out to the writers and the people who ink and stuff. If you guys don't know, Bitchy is a draw stuff. She does art and things like that. I find it kind of interesting and fascinating how artists and people who do these different things, they're always shit on. Their works always get bastardized. It's very fascinating. These guys put in years, and their versions survived longer than the Arrowverse, longer than the movieverse. Literally, their films just came to an end the end of this year, where DC imploded. The DC movies imploded in 2023. Yeah, I think 2023 was the last ones, and they didn't give a shit about them. They barely marketed the movies. They just wanted to get them out and over with. And to be honest with you, I don't blame them. Being a huge DC fan, I really only like Blue Beetle. Probably was the only live action I liked in the Super Pals movie. The ones with the animals, that was pretty nifty. Once again, animation. So that's why I want to highlight today the importance of animation and the importance of artists and voice actors and things like that. There's another thing, and I'll probably go into it on another stream on another day. But voice actors get the shittiest deals. If you guys don't know, and this is more of a bigger thing in the gaming industry, voice actors get next to no pay. They don't get the rights to their stuff. They get really shitty contracts. They do hours of work for basically nothing. Unless you're like Nolan North or any of these really big voice actors that can make their own contracts and kind of control their own projects or just do everything, you really get shafted. And that's another reason why I'm bringing this up today. Like, the cast I read, you had some really big actors voicing in this universe. None of them appeared in live action. That is nuts to me. That is, you have like Nathan Fillion, who did like 6 of these movies, and he was in one live action. He was in The Suicide Squad, but for years he wasn't even in live action. Jensen Ackles has yet to appear in a DC film, but he's voiced Batman twice. That's nuts. That is crazy to me. And in interviews and things like that, they talk about how they loved working with the teams and things like that. Kevin Conroy right up till the moment he passed, rest his soul, was Batman. Like, look on any list, right? If you talk about who's the best Batman, Kevin Conroy, I guarantee you, is always at everybody's number one. And all he did was voice act the animated series. He appeared in the CW once as Batman. I hated that crossover. It was terrible. But he did appear as Batman later and was killed by Batwoman. Oh, it was terrible. But yeah, Kevin Conroy, for as good of a Batman voice as he had, never was in a live action. And this is the problem that I have with WB's mismanagement of just this whole franchise in general. Sorry, long rants. That's what you get on the channel. Welcome for everybody who's still here with me. Thank you. Welcome. Yes, I do agree with that. Big Daddy-O John B says WB's DC animation is the best. It's so much better than Marvel's animated stuff. I especially love the Elseworlds stuff. Yeah, I do too. They said at John Zod's Phantom Zone, I will give credit to the CW. They had Kevin Conroy play Bruce Wayne. Yep, I agree. I just didn't like how they portrayed him. And I did see the Mark Hamill. Even Mark Hamill was actually in a couple of things for DC. And him too. If you talk about Jokers, Mark Hamill is always in the discussion as well. And all he did was voice act. We never actually saw him play the Joker. Would have been interesting to see a Mark Hamill Joker, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, it's fascinating. It fascinates me. So, moving on, this was the beginning of the Teen Titans. They would come back later. This is probably my favorite anime. So if you guys don't know, much like Marvel, the DC universe has a dark version, dark heroes there. They border between good and anti-heroes, and one of my favorite DC characters is introduced, and I would say probably one of the most powerful characters in the DC universe, John Constantine. Now, I argue this, and I might do some kind of video on John Constantine and all of his accomplishments, but I don't care what anybody says. He's more powerful than Superman. Don't come at me. Superman gets beat by magic. So John Constantine is a magic user, and very much in the DC universe, a anti-hero of sorts, a swindler. If you guys have seen the John Constantine movies played by the magnificent Keanu Reeves, which the movie I think is underrated, quite honestly. I did a watch along with Justin Proper and Pop Culture PV. You can check that out under my movie reviews list or my live stream, little thing, whatever. You guys know the deal. Anyways, I did a live stream where we did a watch along for the Constantine movie. And my favorite thing is John Constantine pissed off a lot of people. One of them in particular is the devil. So John Constantine is the only soul when he dies that the devil will come and collect personally. And so him and the lesser known heroes are introduced in this movie. And it has Zatanna, the dead man, Etrigan, who talks in riddles, very hilarious. And of course, probably my second favorite DC character, Swamp Thing. So they get together to stop a supernatural force with Batman and Superman. And this is that connection that I'm talking about where they vaguely connect everything. So Batman and Superman make an appearance in this movie. They're fighting this wizard they can't beat because Superman is weak to magic, which he didn't know until he runs into the Justice League Dark. And also, this is where the universe really opens up. And then you have another Teen Titans movie. This is where we dive more into their lore. This was probably my favorite of the Teen Titan movies. This is called The Judas Contract. This is where I kind of started liking Damian. Damian Wayne becomes the de facto leader, and he has to take on Brother Blood, who has a lot of godlike abilities. Actually, you could watch the show Titans. They did an arc with Brother Blood. It was probably the best season they had. They also had Lex in that season as well, but that's a review for another day. And so you had Brother Blood, Deathstroke, and it's also the arc with Damien where the Ra's al Ghul's League of Assassins. I can't remember what happened to Ra's, but they need a new heir, so they want Damien to take over the League of Assassins. But then he decides to stick with the Titans, obviously, and that whole thing. And then we have a one-off, once again, introducing the Suicide Squad. And if you guys don't know, I forgot her name, but the person who is in the Big Bang Theory, the blonde lady there, I forget her name. She voices Harley Quinn in these DC movies, and she actually does a really good job. Once again, another good candidate for Harley Quinn that we never see in live action. Granted, we have had a ton. I'm almost sick and tired of Harley Quinn as a character, but we have a ton of Harley Quinn iterations. Big Daddy John B says if James Gunn wants to succeed, he should totally bring back. I would love to. I know he's talking with Keanu Reeves. There's some talks about bringing him into the DC and doing a John Constantine too. I've been following that story. Oh yeah, I do love his character development in the DCAMU. It's the only time I've ever liked Damian Wayne. I hate Damian Wayne like with a passion. But this introduces Copperhead, Bronze Tiger, Captain Boomerang, Killer Frost. These characters will all come back. This was my favorite iteration. This is the Death of Superman. This was a very famous comic book. I remember when I was a kid reading this. It's my favorite arc, obviously, because Superman dies, and I hate Superman. But of course, I hate Superman. I'm General Zod. So, anyways, yeah, this was my favorite arc. I actually had all of the comic books of the Death of Superman. Great animation. Loved this movie. It was rated R, which really shocked me. They went for it. It's a super violent animated cartoon, which goes through the death of Superman. Next, you have my favorite standalone DC one, of course. It's called Constantine, City of Demons. It came out 2018. This is also rated R. It is a very, very crazy animated thing. And this is what I liked about this universe. Some movies are PG-13, some are R, but they cross into each other fine. Like Justice League Dark, the first one, was PG-13, but you still had R-rated characters in it, which I think Marvel can do. So this might be a thing Marvel thinks about if they're going to bring like Deadpool into the universe. You can have these R-rated characters cross in and out without nerfing them. Next was the Reign of Superman, which brings Superman back. If you know that storyline, several different Supermans come back claiming to be Superman. The cyborg Superman tries to take the original Superman's place, and then the real Superman comes back, and surprise, surprise, he beats them all up. Yay, go Superman, the most boring character ever. Okay, so then we are on to everybody's favorite storyline, 2019, Batman Hush. This is one of the biggest comic books, one of the biggest Batman arcs of all time. Hush is a very, very popular supervillain. Hush is the person who knows Superman intimately. What makes Hush interesting is he manipulates all of Batman's villains to attack him all at once, including the Joker. He teams up with Joker, Scarecrow, and Poison Ivy, and it's a good watch. Then we introduce Wonder Woman finally in the 2019 Wonder Woman Bloodlines. A very good animated movie. This just explains Diana's backstory, and she is played by Rosaria Dawson. Like I said, so many stars that they had voiced these characters, and I think Rosaria Dawson in general could have been a decent live action one, although I like Gal Gadot. And then we get to the big finisher, and this is the culmination of all of the movies, where we have Justice League Dark, the Apokolips War. This is one of my favorite DC animated movies, probably that they ever did. You have the Teen Titans, the Justice League Dark. They launch a plan to attack Apocalypse. So the general gist of the movie in this one, I will take my time to break down a little bit. So the gist is, throughout these movies, you've seen hints of Darkseid here and there. He's been pulling the strings, except for like Batman Hush and things like that. Those are separate side stories, and the death of Superman. But the other movies, kind of like Marvel and post-credit scenes and things like that, you see Darkseid in the background. He's always doing some shit. Well, Superman comes up, of course, with the brilliant idea of he's going to attack Darkseid on his own planet, full force, with every member of every squad in a big epic battle. Now, the thing I like about this movie is it's 2 hours, and the first hour is initially just the setup. And it is Batman, Superman, everybody going to Darkseid's planet. They're like, we'll kick his ass at his own planet. He won't see us coming. Well, if you guys don't know, Darkseid is a god. Literally, he is called a new god. And basically what they are these big beings. Trigon is a new god. These beings with ridiculous, super ultra powers. Like, these are villains and some heroes and things like that you just don't mess with. And they decided to piss off the new god Apokolips, whose sole mission is to basically assimilate all of these different worlds into his world. He has his own planet. And so they go to this planet and they horribly get beat. And it's because the cyborg is made from Apocalypse's tech, basically. It's this cube that's kind of a host. It's a mother cube or something like that. And so he hears their plan and he lets them go to his planet. And when I say this thing is gory, Wonder Woman gets her arms ripped off. Superman gets kryptonite shoved in his chest. He like disassembles Cyborg. Everybody dies. And then it kind of does a time jump. And Superman has not stopped trying to come up with a plan. And Raven has she has a connection with her father, Trigon. There's this thing she wears where she keeps him in hell. But the connection is getting weaker. And so Superman comes up with a plan that he needs help with. And they go and they get John Constantine. And there's a lot of layers to it. I got to do an actual full review to get into the nuts and bolts. But basically, this proves how powerful John Constantine is. And the gist is he uses Trigun to start a fight with Apokolips because they can't beat Apokolips in a fight. And so he manipulates everything to where Trigun will fight Apokolips and all of these things. And it's a very great movie. This is the build up to all of the things that have been leading to this one event. Yes, it was brutal. It was probably the most brutal. It was probably the most brutal movie out of all of these, and it shows the power of Darkseid. He's kind of like DC's Thanos, like the most powerful being in the DC universe. But needless to say, they beat him, and it ends where the Flash is the only person who could save this universe, and the Flash has to run back into time in order to warn everybody and reset the universe, because even though they beat Darkseid, they essentially destroy Earth doing it. and Earth is getting ready to explode. And as it does, Flash runs into the past to warn them of what happens. In the meantime, John Constantine kind of gets stuck in a limbo because he messed with super ultra powerful magic that you should not mess with. Which brings us into the reset, into the House of Mystery, another one of my favorites. John Constantine using all the magic that he used and everything else. There are consequences to his actions. And so he's trapped in a limbo called the House of Mystery, which kind of force him to relive different fates that he was afraid of. So, like they say, he's living in kind of like a groundhog day, and he keeps on seeing everybody die, and it ends with him finally breaking out of it. And then he gets thrusted into a weird alternate universe, and this is where we pick up the second arc that's all connected, which we didn't know when they said they were rebooting this. And that connection, of course, is going to be John Constantine is going to be the through line to most of these movies. So, oh my goodness, there we go. What is my computer doing? So, the connection is going to be John Constantine and, of course, the Flash. And that brings us to the Tomorrowverse. The Tomorrowverse, which had its first installment, Superman, the Man of Tomorrow, and a different style of art. And to be honest with you, I'm not really sure why they changed the art. Some of it's good, like the Long Halloween and things like that. Some of the art design's a little weird. But this is the point I wanted to bring up and how it fits into James Gunn and why he kind of rushed the end of this, but he did include this as a jump off point because of the movie we'll talk about that this leads into. But it says this takes place in the James Gunn cinematic reboot and brings them back into live action. So the Tomorrowverse is coming to a dramatic end with a 3-part adaptation of the legendary comic book event Crisis on Infinite Earths. The storyline will see the Tomorrowverse crossover with Batman the Animated Series and the DC Animated Universe's movies that were outlined up above. So this is where we tie in everything that's ever been made. So I mean Batman the Animated Series, Batman Beyond, Superman the Animated Series, Justice League Unlimited, all of them are now all connected into one thing. The Tomorrowverse kind of brings them together. Yes, I did like the Trigun Darkseid match. That was pretty cool. So we start with Superman, Man of Tomorrow. It has my third favorite character, Lobo, the main man, the intergalactic bounty hunter. Which is cool because I've always wanted Lobo to be in these. He's been in and out of different stories, but this is kind of like a first movie. We have Justice Society World War II, which came out in 2021. This was the second installment. This is where the Flash inadvertently traveled back to World War II and actually helps Black Canary, Hawkman, and Wonder Woman fight against the Nazis. This was my favorite of the Tomorrowverse. This is a very popular storyline with Batman called The Long Halloween, and it's broken up into 2 parts. And this is where Batman has to fight most of his rogue gallery in 2 nights, I believe. It's over the course of the Halloween season, ending on Halloween or Halloween night. It was like Two-Face, Catwoman, all of them. He has to battle everyone. The next one is Green Lantern, Beware of My Power, which came out in 2022. This reintroduces the Green Lantern. I believe is it John Stewart? Is this John Stewart's Green Lantern? Yes. They introduced, damn, I'm good. They introduced John Stewart, Hawkgirl, and all of them. And then we've got the Legion of Superheroes, where we get introduced to Supergirl. And then we have Justice League World War. This was an interesting one, kind of 50-50. Some people liked it, some people didn't. But this is alternate versions of Wonder Woman, Superman, and Batman. They are transported to a Western-inspired planet known as War World. And then we finally end with the Crisis on Infinite Earth, part 1, 2, and 3. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. In between there, you've had crossovers with like Ruby and different other things. A couple of Elseworld stories. You have Batman, Gaslight by Dark or something like that, and a bunch of like little Elseworld stories in between there. Yeah, I didn't like the Green Lantern one as much. The Tomorrowverse movies are a hit or miss. So, anyways, that was my stream. As you guys know, I tried to keep these to an hour. But basically, my highlight that I wanted to bring about, because I've talked about the DC, the DCU, and then the DCAU, and then this is the DCAMU. It all gets confusing. And with the new Crisis on Infinite Earth, we have officially reset things once again. And now James Gunn is looking to bring all of these in. He uses the Crisis on Infinite Earths to connect everything and essentially wipe everything out, because that's what Crisis on Infinite Earths does. The story there is a being known as the Monitor, and there's multiple universes created through Flash's time-traveling shenanigans. Every time he travels into the past or alters something, a different universe is created. So to balance that out, there is the Monitor, who monitors everything, and there's the Anti-Monitor, who is the inverse, and he destroys these worlds, and, you know, it's a whole big thing. Everybody from the different universes have to come together and stop the Anti-Monitor. So I wanted to leave it where we are now entering a point where James Gunn has officially wiped the slate clean of everything. We're done with the DCEU. We're done with the DCAMU. And now we're getting into what I like to call the DCJU, which is or the DCJGU, which is the DC James Gunn universe. Or the DCU. I'm calling it the DCJGU because essentially this is going to be James Gunn's big one. I heard a lot of talk. This movie is going to be big. This new Superman movie coming out. It's going to really set a tone of what James Gunn is planning on doing. I love his approach. I wanted to touch on something before I sign off, which is that everybody was nervous because James Gunn did not show a trailer at the Comic-Con. Said, "What are you doing, man? How could you not come out here and start talking up your brand new movie? You have Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. Why would you not want to promote that? Did you see his beautiful bald head? That's my Lex Luthor. He's got to be bald. Not this bullshit they did with Jesse Eisenberg, the worst Lex Luthor of all time." And I say good. He said in a statement, and he sent a video message saying that they do not want to show any of the movie. They want to promote it when they get closer to the release of the movie. Good. They're not trying to rush things. They're not trying to get things out the door. The first drop we saw was Creature Commandos. I will be covering that. That's going to be coming to HBO Max. It's been stated that the Matt Reeves Batman is going to be over here. They're going to introduce their own Batman. There's a lot of talks. I'm not going to get into casting stuff today. I'll probably do that in another stream. And next stream, I'm probably going to talk about all of the information we have on the new Superman movie coming out, which that stream will be tomorrow at the same time at noon till 1. And I'll be talking about all of the different announcements and things like that we got coming from DC, but I'm super excited. This has been my long history, these last couple of episodes. I kind of want to talk about where we've been, because I then want to start rating these movies and products after showing this timeline, and this is the important part that I want to highlight before I go. During the era I just outlined, you had WB and 700 different directors and actors and everything else doing all sorts of different things. Nothing was connected. Everything was a big fucking mess. You literally needed a watch order to understand what connects to what and what you should watch. And I shouldn't have to watch a movie like that. You shouldn't have to do homework to watch movies. It's ridiculous. And I like the idea of somebody who is shepherding and guiding, one voice, one person that's guiding the universe together to make it one coherent, legible, understandable thing. And that's what we got now. James Gunn is going to bring everything together. It's going to be James Gunn and Peter Safran, who one, I believe, is the marketing kind of go between WB and James Gunn. James Gunn is the one who has creative control. He's picking the directors. He's doing the casting, the story. He's writing some of the stories and movies and shows personally and directing them for the first slate. And he's hand-picking everything and everybody. And that is exactly what Kevin does for the MCU. And that's what we need. We need one person directing everything, one person looking at something and going, this doesn't fit here, we need to change this. And I understand wiping the slate clean because it's been a shit show since I was a kid. Nothing, everything's been confusing for years. Yes, The Long Halloween was great. War World was good. I like that. And Crisis on Infinite Earths, I agree, is the best of them. Yeah, the movies range in quality. But anyways, thank you everybody for watching. Really appreciate it. Hit that like, share, subscribe. Thank you to the sponsors of this and most of my videos, MoviePalette.com. At MoviePalette.com, do you like Batman? Do you like Superman? You want to get a spiffy movie palette with all the colors in the background? Well, if you go to MoviePalette.com and you put in the promo code Zone15, you get 15% off of all of your purchases, but there's more. If they're running a sale, like 10% off, you put my code in, you get essentially 25% off because they add my discount with discounts already on their site. So go check out MoviePalette.com. Thank you for sponsoring the channel. And thank you, everybody who stuck with me. Thank you, Big Daddy John, and everybody else who was here. Carmen, South Florida Drifter, Cromel, Christine, and, you know, everybody who comes and pops in, KH. Thank you. I love all you guys. And as always, remember, there is only one rule here in the Phantom Zone. Kneel before Zod.